I don't see why this is different. Nope, I do not get why this is different. In the video, it says Minecraft maps in the bottom right when the video is showing a Minecraft map being displayed in my Minecraft viewer. However, the demo is not just about the Minecraft viewer. The demo is about the library that I used to make the Minecraft viewer. And that library is not Minecraft specific, nor is the game that I'm working on here. It's just that that library can be used to make a Minecraft viewer, and I used it to make a Minecraft viewer so I could show Minecraft maps because the Minecraft maps look a lot more interesting than the randomly generated maps that I had. And because I could show that I could view out to 1,000 blocks easily in my viewer. All right. This is the kind of bug I hate. Hate life. Fuck you, SDL, for making me deal with this bullshit. So typically this would be because I'm using VC6, so for some reason I don't have the begin thread stuff, but it's working in that other one, and I don't understand why it's working in that other one, but not working here. Let's go back to that. Let's just cut and paste the whole thing. Here. Can't paste the whole thing. Okay, we don't need that. Don't need those. Don't need that. That's something else. p.h, SDL thread. That's all there. Math and assert.h. New noise. Nope, I have all the same includes. Except assert.h. I mean, some STB libs, but there's no way SDL depends on an STB lib, so. What would do that? What would be different? Debug, build all. It builds fine. SDL thread.h begin thread. Both of these use it. So did we hit this code? Yes, we hit this code. This code. This code. Yes, we hit this code. Does this code get expanded? Yes, that code gets expanded. All right, so it's clearly hitting this code, pulling this out. I probably do not have multi-threaded turned on. That would be the most likely dumb explanation. It's not SDL's fault at all. It's totally my fault because I'm using some crazy old compiler that, amongst other things, actually supports using what is that even part of code generation? Debug single threaded. Yeah. All right. There you go. And I did have to fix that the other time. It was just in a setting that I didn't see. Okay. So now I've totally lost my train of thought about any of the work I was doing here. All right, condition variables. I don't know what a condition variable is, and this doesn't bother documenting it. It just assumes you already know. So what's the difference between broadcast and signal? Doesn't tell you. So I should probably read about what Windows stuff is, and by the way, another interesting thing about VC6 is that everything builds very fast because the compiler was written nearly 20 years ago, and they tried to make it be quote unquote fast then. In the way compilers are always kind of not really very fast. And so computers have had 20 years to get faster, and it therefore compiles very fast, much like it starts up very fast. It didn't start up very fast when you launched it in 1998, but it does start up very fast now. And as a result, it compiles very fast, but it doesn't do threaded compilation. It's only single-threaded compiling. So you get one thread of compilation, which puts you back to square one effectively, because of the slower compilers running on 4 or 8 threads is going to be competitive. But it's interesting that it is still competitive, even though it's not doing threaded compilation. It's just building on one at a time. Of course, I only ever build fairly small apps. Iggy is 80,000 lines of code, I think, my project at work. So, obviously if you were making 1 million lines of code thing, maybe that would bug you a little more that you weren't getting the multi. Okay. Yeah, all right, let's assume they were just cloning some Windows API here. Windows condition variable. After a thread is woken, it reacquires the lock it released when the thread entered the sleeping state. What? Atomically release a lock and enter the sleeping state. Okay. Yeah, I don't understand that at all. I mean, I understand the words. I don't understand the concept. I don't understand the point of the concept. Like, when do you initially take it if you're releasing it? Oh, you take it with the inner crit section. Yeah, that makes sense in that you have an actual condition. I don't know. It's confusing. I just want a simple wake up. I don't want any of this stuff. Yeah, well, if there were events in here, that would be grand. But I don't see anything event-like here. I just want to signal an event and wake on it. And I normally do this with mutexes, with semaphores, because I think normally semaphores you can, maybe I'm wrong about that. Windows semaphore. Can't you set like a max on the semaphore so that then it drops the extra B's? Yeah, and a specified maximum, but SDL doesn't support the specified maximum, which probably be for cross-platform reasons. So the point is, if you just set a semaphore to have a max of 1, then it serves as a wake up kind of thing, because you can release it as many times as you want with no effect. But the SDL semaphore does not appear to have a max. It just has an initial count. So if I can't set the max on that, I can't prevent it from just incrementing multiple times when you post. And then it will stupidly, when it tries to wait, nothing will have changed. Easy make an event using a condition variable, by the way. All right. See if I get a reply from that. Yeah, I did 2 tweets anyway, but they were sort of self-contained thoughts. I prefer to do it that way than the John Blow, the thought just keeps continuing across the things, and you don't even realize he's, there was one time he tweeted something a little controversial, and it was still controversial, but he managed to do the Dr. Horrible when Captain Hammer is reading from his cards, and he hates the homeless or whatever that was, and then continues on the next card and reverses the meaning. John managed to do something. It wasn't quite that much of a reversal, but it was a much more controversial statement without the second tweet. Anyway, so yeah, I did end up clarifying it on the second tweet because, hey, there's an answer that I assume is necessary, and I might as well communicate that. All right, let me check my notifications. Hey, look, I have a new notification. I also have 14 old ones. Yeah, I don't think mutex does what I want. Yeah, thanks a lot. That's yeah, I've looked at that page. Thanks for that not useful answer. I try to communicate all that stuff in the tweet so people won't waste my time with the wrong thing, but they still do. Here's a random tweet. I like this. Here's someone who tweeted, just discovered that Nothings has a rather nifty cache of code available on GitHub. I assume he means the STB libraries. So there you go. Here's someone who has just discovered them for the first time. Yeah, the threaded view is a mess. All right, so I have not gotten any useful replies, and I kind of need this to make any progress here. I guess I can start writing the rest of the code and just, we'll have a block waiting for manager wake up. Void block waiting. Boy, I'm super dumb at having to type these multiple times. Void wake up manager. Some post. I wonder if I did this wrong in the KView. If I tried to use this way of doing things. It requires both a lock and a condition. What's reset event? I think you're trying to implement something more complicated than what I need. I think you can probably just use condition wait and condition signal directly. I don't know for sure though. Three new notifications. Let's see if somebody has the answer. Nope. So they just a lot of unrelated things. But anyway, all right, I've modularized it for now. So let's go back to our pseudocode, go through meshes in order, determine the chunks needed. So for that, I have a priority order list of meshes that's managed by the render thread. So what we do here is we say I guess I already have something to do something like this up here, task. But that's okay. So requested mesh, renderer requested meshes, max meshes. Why does that stop there? Before dash. Oh, I see. PC6 have autocomplete. It has autocomplete of those, except that one doesn't have any because CL or something. Renderer requested meshes of 0 dot. Okay, I don't know why it's broken. So it does break some of the time. This is an awesome, well, one awesome downside of this. Or I might have mistyped the name there. There you go. So it has field autocomplete, and that's it. And of course, I mean, it has the does give you those prompts, but that's not autocomplete. Check my new notifications. Nope. So now we want to lock. What's the mutex lock test? SDL lock mutex of the mesh requested mesh semaphore. That's just a dumb starting way to interact with the renderer. We can tweak all this later. And then we want to iterate through the list and look at what it's asking for. And built meshes. And the requested mesh should have a chunk set. So this is going to turn into the, and it's going to have int chunk set valid 4. So what we do is we say requested mesh meshes of I. So here's a mesh that the renderer says it wants. So we go through the 4x4, and let's actually just yeah, fine. Larabee, I don't know. So the company that I work at, Rad Game Tools, we were subcontracted or contracted from Intel to write the graphics part of that, all the software engine for doing the graphics on Larabee. So I'm very close to that in a strange way. I didn't work on it personally, but several of my friends did as well. And it just means my perspective on it is really weirdly colored by sort of the politics and other stuff outside of the technical stuff. So I think I'd rather not go into it. It's not like I have deep secret info. It's just like, I think it's not a useful opinion. Like if I thought about it, I might be able to give you a good answer, but while I'm trying to do work, I don't think I have a good, I can just toss off a thing. Yeah, I don't know if you guys want to go crazy with bot stuff. I don't know how often I'm going to stream. Like, you know, I decided this weekend I'm going to work on OBBG, and so I'm streaming a couple times, but the OBBG has been a project I've been intending to do for at least a month, and every other weekend it's been like, oh, I need to work on STB libs, or I need to do this other stuff, or etc. So, you know, this could easily be a once a month. I mean, I have no idea. I'm not promising once a month. It could be less, it could be more, but yeah, I don't know about expecting it. So K of J, if it's not valid, then we need to get it. So if we need to get it, then what do we need to do? 1, check if it's already in the cache and copy it out if so. 2, check if there's already a task for it and do nothing. 3, create a task for it. Fabian answered. Fabian answered. Oh, all right. I will check my notifications again. Monitor. Yeah, a monitor is what I want, but yeah, that unfortunately that answer is like way too long. Uh, what was that? SDL. All right. I do have a bachelor's degree in CS. It's not very useful. I mean, there's a few things that I learned in college that were valuable, but most of what I learned in college was not particularly valuable. But I posted this in several games. I believe you. I just don't know what it's doing. It's got more stuff to it than I think my problem has. Which I mean, I could still cut and paste and use it. I just like I'd have to understand it first, and if it's more complicated than what I need, then that's more work to understand than what I actually need, unless it's actually what I need. But I don't think it is because its reset event is not the API I'm looking for, right? The API I'm looking for is sleep and wake, basically, right? And if you get multiple wakes while you're asleep, it doesn't matter. You ignore them. Well, I guess if you get if you get multiple wakes while you're asleep, you ignore them. Once you awake, once you're awake, any more wakes that trigger need to be queued till the next time you sleep. Read write monitor seems awfully more complicated than what I need as well. Readers waiting and writers waiting. Who are readers and writers in this situation? Yeah, I have no idea what that code is doing. Okay to read and okay to write. It sounds like that's implementing some kind of a reader writer monitor. That's way more than what I need. I'll reset immediately after or inside wait. What? Why would? Okay, yeah, that is why it's more complicated, and I guess that works. It's gross that you have to use two thread primitives when a single thread primitive, the semaphore with the max count, does exactly what I need, but I can live with it being a little gross if that's the only option in SDL. And I have to declare an extra freaking global variable. Like, so let's so let's call it a bowl so that everyone knows what we're talking about. So then here we say event equals false because nobody else can have done it, and then we do that. And so then it's WakeableWaiter. Okay. That sound right? Yeah, I can't put it in a class, it's C. So I don't know what this is actually called. So so does this seem like roughly what you're talking about here? All right, so now I'm going to post that to Twitter. So I keep leaving Twitter off screen just in case anybody's posting from a locked account. I should probably compile that and make sure it compiles. Usually I have definitions for this stuff so that I can use them. But when I'm doing STB stuff, I don't tend to because I don't want to rely on extra things. WakeableWaiter. Okay, that fixes all that. Now, where's my paste bin? Oh no, I have to remake my paste bin because I didn't What's the? Or did I? Did I cut and paste it into this tweet? There it is. Well, I can't edit a paste bin anyway, so. Yeah, I'll just leave it with the. All right, and Fabian claims that that is what a monitor is. He linked me to this monitor Wikipedia page, and it didn't. That's not what the description of it said. But I don't need them to have mutual exclusion. I just need them to wait for, and it's not a condition to become true. It's weird to call it that. But if that's what it means, that's what it means. Yeah, it's a, I don't know. All right, let me do some work. Now we've got that all settled. Let's check this. Wake is lacking its argument. You can clone the minutes. Oh, yeah. The generative model, but not strictly. Usage part shows it right. But why is that nested? No, I don't want to. The monitor's lock. That's, I don't know. Maybe, is there another usage section? Why is there a lock? See, the thing I'm saying should just be that. The thing I want is just that. There's no need for a lock. The imaginary primitive I'm saying I need has no need for a lock. Because note that this lock is just private to these operations. These are not being used by anyone else because they're hidden. WakeableWaiter. Wait. Waiter. Wake. Let's call it that. All right. So now that I have that, I can leave these down here for a second, and then I can see that those are exactly what I wanted here. This is waiter. Wait on manager monitor. We'll call it a monitor for lack of a better term. You can't have multiple waits waking up at the same time. Right. I don't want multiple waits I want multiple waits. If there are multiple wake ups that happen at the same time while the thing is waiting, it only wakes up once. The fact that to implement that, you use a mutex if you have conditional variables, sure, but the mutex is not part of the API that we just described. The API is you call wake up, and as long as it was waiting, it will wake up. And if it wasn't waiting, then the next time it waits, it wakes up. It's pretty much exactly what you need for this type of workflow where you're not bothering to give, you want to pass, you have a number of things communicating with one thread, and rather than telling it what exactly it needs to do, you're just saying, hey, wake up and figure out what you need to do. So you know it's going to look at everything, and and you don't have to pass in more info, and it doesn't matter if two people try to wake it up at the same time because it's going to reparse everything. The mutex that I'm locking here is different. That's for communicating with the renderer thread, which is separate. Okay, so we have to do these things. Once we've done those things, int valid chunks equals 0. If the chunk is valid, do nothing except when that task finishes, we need to if our wait needs a lock. All right. Yeah, he's explaining how it works, and I don't have time to think about it because I need to keep my brain swapped onto this stuff. So else the chunk is valid, and we increment the valid chunks. So when that task finishes, we need to update everybody who was waiting on it, or can we rely on the cache? For now, we're going to rely on the cache. So when you create a new, when you create a task here to proc gen / load the terrain chunk, and it will load into the cache. And then the next time through here, when you do this, you'll probe all of the things again and say, oh, look, it's in the cache. And if you get really unlucky, it'll swap out of the cache again by somebody else overwriting it. And never make any progress. It probably could happen. All right. Yes, thank you, bartwe. Yeah, I mean, I'll read the stuff from Fabian later. It's just not, I don't need to know the nitty-gritty details of this stuff. When I'm on the stream and trying to get stuff working, I'm looking for the shortest answer that gets it working. And which is why this was super annoying, because it had a more complicated API than I needed. And I know that's not the simplest way to do what I want with threading synchronization primitives in general, but it may be the only way to do what I want with the set that SDL provides. And I'm happy to accept that and move on at this point with that, and try to minimize my thinking about it, because that is all just a giant freaking waste of time. All of this threading stuff is a terrible waste of time. None of this is solving actual problems. This is all solving shared memory problems that are necessary to make an efficient thing that uses multiple threads to get these tasks done. But I've already got code to get these tasks done. It's all just kind of busy work. And if the number of valid chunks is 16, then this is now ready. Dispatch a task to build a mesh. Okay. Let's put to-dos in for all of these so it's more clear what's finished code and what's not finished code. I'm looking at the Abner Coimbre. I don't know what the pronunciation of that last name would be, but I think I'll just call you Benedict Cumberbatch. That seems a lot simpler. And then I can say that, you know, I have Benedict Cumberbatch as one of my chat mods. You know, that's pretty awesome. So I can get rid of these now. And I need to create this manager monitor, which is a WakeableWaiter. And we need to init this. Init WakeableWaiter. Manager monitor. So yeah, sorry for everyone that this thing has gotten really boring now. The stream. Maybe I should run the game again just to show it. So I see that Abner is not explaining how his last name is pronounced, because I did make an attempt at it, but I obviously picked an arbitrary language in which to do that, which was perhaps not the right language. Every time somebody says nothing in the chat, of course, I see that as my name and get confused or get distracted. Okay, so mesh worker handler we need. Wait, did we already make one? Yep, we made one. Wake manager is not needed anymore. So then what does the mesh worker handler have to do? The mesh worker handler how do they get woken up? Does somebody assign them? So they have to pull off a work queue. So we have task queue. So let's have a so like let's just write the code to serve from the queue, just because I need to have that at some point. So SEL sem or mutex actually. Am I using a semaphore? I should be using a mutex, right? Yeah. Mutex. Embra. I think I'll stick with Benedict Cumberbatch. All right, so that's mutex. Mutex. Okay, so SEL lock mutex, or is it mutex lock? So I recall it's semaphores and mutexes have opposite from each other. So we're going to lock the mutex for the queue. Is pending tasks. Dot mutex. And So sorry, I'm just getting distracted reading the chat. That's not what I'm here for. Let's do lock mutex. So then if pending tasks dot head equals pending tasks dot tail, then there's nothing there. So if they're not equal, then I can pull a task off the queue. Task equals pending tasks. No, task equals task queue. Pending tasks dot tail. Increment pending tasks dot tail if pending tasks tail equals pending tasks dot length. Pending tasks dot tail equals 0. Okay. So I might as well modularize that task. I can't return the pointer, so I have to pass in the task. Okay, so int get pending task task t t ret val equals 0, ret val equals 1. So I was saying before, I usually define true and false, and then in STB libraries I don't bother doing it, but this is not an STB library, this is a project, and so I should indeed, and this is an app, so I should indeed go ahead and do that. Define true. Define false 0. And then this code will be a little clearer. Okay, so get pending task. Now, so the question is, how does this guy get woken up? That could probably be done with a mutex with the worker manager, because there's only a single person waking it. So we get a task, oops, task t. So if we get a pending task, we actually need to do some work. So we need to look at what the job is. Switch t dot task type. Case job. Build mesh, generate terrain. Job, generate terrain. All right. So this should be more straightforward. This part of it, so we just have to call these existing things we're already doing in a different context. So right, so we build a mesh. Let's go ahead and do it this way. Mesh maker mm. And then we're going to do this. And then we have to generate the output mesh, which I have a thing for somewhere. Remember, I made the uint8 build buffer. Built mesh. Built mesh. Outmesh dot build buffer equals malloc. See num quads times, so I need mesh chunk. So that's not auto completing. So mesh chunk. There we go. Num quads times 16. mesh dot face buffer equals malloc quads times 4. Let's do a global search and replace build buffer vertex build buffer. I don't want to call it vertex buffer because that has a different meaning. That might be confusing. You can't do if a equals true, then if a greater than 1. Well, if you really want the right way to define true and false here, let me show you. Here's the right way to do this. So let's see. So we're in the middle of doing this. We've done that. We need to mem copy them. Mesh.vertex build buffer from vertex build buffer. This still won't work because the vertex build buffer is global. So all of the threads will be trying to use the same one at the same time. So I still have to fix that. Buffer. Face buffer. Enum quads times 4. These shouldn't be hard-coded sizes. They're sizes that depend on the voxel render mode, but whatever. I'll just do it for now. Later. And then there's one more thing in outmesh, which is MC. And then we have to put this into an output queue. I already have the output queue. Yes, the built queue. So I need to have, so I've get pending task. I need to do add pending task. To do get, what was this? Built mesh. No, we want to batch these. So we would have to violate, we need to violate abstraction so we don't keep calling the lock over and over. Have to do add build mesh. All right. So then we say add built mesh out mesh. Okay. So now the only thing missing here is where MC came from. Thank you when it's just Q. Let's see. Where does MC come from here? So MC currently is directly out of the mesh cache. Wait, this don't work. That's just totally wrong. I can't be the address of that and then free it. Oh, free mesh chunk, not free. Okay. So what we want to do now is have the mesh chunks not live in the mesh cache. But these are the ones, these are actually full OpenGL cache meshes, and the one I have here is not a full OpenGL mesh yet because it has not yet been uploaded. That's why we had to cut and paste some of that code. I had to skip this part of the code. Right, so this is being done by the manager. This will get done on the renderer thread because we can't trust threaded uploads of mesh data. So we're only doing these two. And eventually I'll get rid of the init mesh maker and have that be part of the worker thread state, but now. So this just needs to be mallocked as of C, and then we need to initialize it. Chunk x equals task world x, shift right, mesh. Do I remember what these are? Chunk size, mesh chunk cache x log 2. I believe that's right. Build mesh. Okay, WC, that's world coordinates. Vec3i, WC equals x equals y 0. CS, that's the task CS. And we have to write and build mesh. Hash. I scroll back of the chat, see if I missed anything here. Oh, I don't know. Forgot to look and see if anyone reacted to my 0 equals 0. Something in here might be a reaction to that, but in case we have new people in chat, I'll see if I can get this running real quick and show the current status. You know the way to do that? I know the way to do that. The way to do that is this. I bet that works. So that is the current status of the thing right now. All right. So back to work. So now I'm calling add built mesh, which doesn't exist yet. So I need to write that. Add built mesh. It's called a built mesh. So what was it called? Built meshes. So we need to see if it's full, and the way we tell if it's full is if adding one would bring the head to equal the tail. So built meshes dot head plus 1 mod built meshes dot length equals built meshes tail. So if that's not true, then it's safe to add. What do we do if it's not safe to add? I guess we should have bailed if it's not safe to add. Oh well. I'll have to come back to that someday. And so then we can say mesh queue, what is it called? Nope, it's called something else. Built queue. Yep, see. Built meshes dot head equals VM built meshes dot head equals built meshes head plus 1 mod built meshes dot length. Okay, that works. Let's go ahead and write the task adding code here while we're at it. Add task. return that it failed. I don't know what we'll do with that if it happens, but built meshes becomes typing tasks. So here is a place where C++ you could use templates. You could only make one of these things once. I was originally starting to use a pointer queue, a queue of pointers, so that you could just share all the code except for that pointer code, but then I don't want to copy the data out and all that stuff, so I don't know how that would really shake out in the long run. So built queue is now task queue, I think. Oh, it should be in the function above me. Yep, task queue. Should be tasks, which means this one was wrong. Search and replace. Built mesh. So let's void init threadsafe queue. All right. I think from now on, if you want me to see what's going on in the chat, you'll have to do a @ symbol or whatever so that I see the extra little flag, because I want to try to stay focused on the code. So I want to only glance over there. And you have to do it, nothing's to or whatever my name is. But it highlights on my screen. All right, so init threadsafe queue of threadsafe queue length. So tq mutex equals some cl create mutex. Create. I don't have that one copied. Wait, I do have a copy. No, I have semaphore. Mutex create. Nope. Don't know. Don't know what it is. Probably create mutex. Render mutex. I don't create it anywhere? Oh, it's externed. Darn it. STL create mutex. Okay. It's not auto completing. I assume that takes nothing. TQ head equals TQ tail equals 0. TQ length equals 0. Yeah. Reasonable. Init thread Q. That's just max stat. I don't remember what these were called already. I just tried to remember it and I've forgotten again. Built meshes, pending tasks. Max built meshes, max tasks. All right, whatever. Okay, and then check my Twitter notifications real quick. How long have I been going without a break? Anybody remember? Or did I take a break? Take a break? I don't think I did. So, am I? missing a curly brace somewhere. I haven't created that yet. Set valid. Part of that. Requested mesh text. Total 3 hours. Total 2.5 hours. All right. In that ballpark. Return retval. Retval equals true. All right. So now I can add a task. So this code here can task, add task t. Task t, t, cs. That's this chunk set that we just got from RM. CS, so we copy the CS. Now we're going to want, how does this want to work? I think we have to put the requested meshes in states. So we're going to set arm state to funcs completed, waiting for meshing. And then t dot task type equals job build mesh world x equals rm x t dot world y equals rm y, and we dispatch it. All right. So I think that will do what we need. Enum requested mesh state. Valid. And requested mesh state requested. Requested mesh state chunks completed. Waiting for meshing. Oops. And then we can assert that the state is in the state we expect, which is always useful thing to do for this kind of thing. Hard to take breaks when you're programming. Yeah, that's when people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you've been doing this for 2 hours straight. I'm like, come on. Like, if I weren't streaming, I'd be doing this stuff for 6 hours straight. No problem. Like, it's just, when you get in the zone, I mean, when I say no problem, I mean a very specific kind of no problem. There are plenty of times when I don't get in the zone, but if I get in the zone, I will stay in the zone for an indefinite amount of time. It helps that I can switch between standing and sitting. So, what was I doing? All right, so hey, I filled out this whole thing. So once again, we're seeing one of these places where I'm just writing a whole bunch of code and not testing it. And I don't know how I would test this code. I don't know how I'd do it in little incremental bits and pieces. Partly it's again because I'm doing it bottom up. Top down would be make the renderer thread, make the requests. Okay, then check those requests. Okay, now take the request and do the first thing that you need to do from that request. And instead, I'm already at the last thing. The last thing that happens here is that I complete the chunk. This thing up here. I complete the chunk and I add the built mesh to communicate back to the renderer. And now I was figuring out, okay, how do I do the job to feed the build mesh? And here I did the job to feed the build mesh. So I'm working bottom up, which is pretty much untestable. And so I probably shouldn't do that, but hey, it's the way I work a lot of the time. And then I fight debugging for ages because it could be any of the code is broken. And you've watched me fight debugging on this stream. If you've been here for long enough, you've watched me just sit there and go, which of these things is it, over and over, and go back and forth with the code and really have no idea. And then suddenly I just suddenly go, oh, it must be this. And I'm always right. Like, and that, oh, it must be this can be from staring at the code, or can be from being in the debugger and looking at the values and going, wait, how did that end up there? Like, you know, what it would be interesting to categorize the bugs we had. We had the lighting bug, which, you know, I eventually succumbed and investigated the lighting and determined it wasn't the lighting, but it was still the lighting because it was a different part of the lighting that I was testing. And I didn't figure that out until I went into the shader and actually hacked at which state in the shader was right and which state in the shader. Then we had that problem with the textures, where I was trying to substitute multiple textures and I could not get that to work. And I went in the shader and tested that and tested lots of different things to make sure the texture was right. And that one turned out to be that SB voxel render overlays two textures, and texture 1 is on the bottom and texture 2 is on the top, because texture 2 is meant to be like a decal or something. And I had set texture 2, the texture 2 sampler, to sample from the same set as texture 1, and texture 1 has 128 opaque Pixar textures. So texture 2, unit 2, which wasn't having anything set up, was always loading texture number 0, which was an opaque texture, and putting that on top of texture 1. And as a result, I was always getting the same texture no matter what I did with texture 1. So I spent a long time trying to figure out what was going on with texture 1 before I finally sat there looking at the shader and went, wait, 2 is overlaying it. So yeah, lots of bugs. Emerald. You init the task queue. Looked like you set like the 0 instead of the param. That would be pretty dumb if I did that. Yep. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Yep. Thank you. Good catch. I would have probably caught that right away. Oh, except I test equal the length. Yeah. Probably it would have crashed with the mod 0. Second. Oh, I see. So, what time of day is it? It's 4:40. What else do I need to do today? I do need to do my laundry. I think I'll get that started now so I don't forget later. So I will take an unofficial break here just for a moment to start my laundry. And then we will dive right back in. All right. I'm back. So, I wrote add task. I wrote add build mesh. Okay, so I've written all those. Much of that compiles. I have not written state yet. Okay, it all compiles. Still have all these to-dos to do, and I still have to do this one. So, the generate terrain task. Let's take a look at how that gets called. Get gen chunk. The old way of doing this. So this is filling out the cache slots. So if we make the manager be the only one who can touch the cache slots, then, because he's the only one who reads them to fill out the chunk set. So if he's the only one who writes to it as well, then I don't have to do any thread locking on that. So what we want to do is get gen chunk cache for reward, and then the generate chunk will do explicitly. So and then wait, the gen chunk, but that gen chunk was filling directly to the what was the function I was just looking at? I've already lost track of it. Get gen chunk. That's what I want. Okay, I'm confused. I thought I was just looking at this and it was doing something different. Where does it do the generating it? Oh, there we go. I have two different. Get gen chunk cache and get gen chunk. Ah. Okay, so what I want to do is all of this code will live in the manager, except for this part. So the manager will do all that in reply to that. Okay, so what we need is that's good. The only problem there is that, right, because my original plan was to have it go ahead and write directly into the cache. And the reason for that was, say this worker finishes the last chunk needed, so he writes it in directly to the cache himself. Then he can check and see, yeah, but the task won't exist yet because the manager is the only one who can. This whole thing with the manager might be a terrible idea, but it's something lets me start. It's I've already lost my thread of thing because I started reading the chat again. I could have them write into the cache directly, but since the manager, oh right, I was saying the manager thing may be a stupid thing. Like maybe each thread should just do this work themselves instead of having the manager do it. But this just lets me figure out what I'm even doing to start with. This is my model. It's maybe not a good model, but it's a model I can use to start figuring out what to do. So I only want to do this if rm of state is RMS requested. If I haven't done anything else with it yet, I do this. Probably these should be like 10 different queues and everything just pushes things into the right queues and then wakes on them, but then you need things to wake on multiple queues, and I don't know. We'll get it all working and then we can come back to it. I mean, this is one of the things that's just terrible in KView. So, okay, so then now I processed all the requested meshes. What I also want to do is check if a task has completed that generated a terrain chunk. So for that, I need a queue of terrain chunks that have been generated. Do I already have that? Built mesh, but I do not have a finished chunk. Chunk is the wrong word. Finished gen. So type def struct. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because that's this huge data structure. And I normally currently use it, the one that's in the cache. About how many times has this been streamed? I streamed this yesterday, and I streamed this morning, and so technically this is the third stream. But yeah, today is the second day. The earlier part of today is already a separate stream that you can go VOD or look on YouTube. So worker manager is going to have to do this code. So this is void put chunk in cache. So it does return the chunk? Now I'm confused. Get gen chunk. Let's generate chunk. So generate chunk, does it malloc the chunk? Gen chunk. Oh, it mallocs the chunk. Okay, well that makes our life much simpler. Okay, good. So put chunk in cache. In x, in y, void star. Not void star. So chunk. I've already forgotten the type of it. Gen chunk. There we go. Put chunk in cache. Now I can move that up to there. Gen chunk. Get gen chunk. Say put chunk in the cache of x, y. Gen chunk. Okay. Check that I didn't break that part of it. Yep. Okay. Gen chunk cache. Assert GCC chunk x does not go x or GCC chunk y does not go y or GCC chunk is null. One of those better be true, or else we're regenerating the same chunk, which would be dumb. Right, and then that failed. So chunk x wrote with cx, chunk y got written with cy. Oh, and GCC is null because it's not even set here. So we return here. And voila. All right, so that's still working. Hooray. All right. So that was that thing. So now we could do that. Okay, so here we need, all right, so I was saying I need a queue of built built things, finished gen. So we have a chunk, gen chunk, and x, and y. So we just generated this chunk. We have that ready. Actually, gen chunk might already have that coordinate in it. It probably should, at least. Gen chunk should be the first appearance of gen chunk in this file, shouldn't it? Oh, yeah, I only tag it in the cache, but I probably should tag it in the object itself. All right, well, we'll come back to that. So now I've got the finish gen, called finish gen chunk to be explicit. I'm going to define max gen chunks. It's actually the same as max built meshes because no, they don't really need to be the same. But we don't want that queue to build up, so whatever. Finished gen chunk. Now these, no, they have pointers, so this can be as big as I want. Okay, that's fine. So this is a gen queue. Gen chunks. And then we need the threadsafe queue. Finished chunks. Finished gen, rather. Okay, and then we need to init that. Is that what it's called? Yep. All right, so now when the job finishes a chunk, it can add it to that. And then the worker manager needs to grab it. So we want the worker manager to grab that first. Lock mutex. That was just called finish gen. Mutex. Wait, why is the requested? Oh, right, because that's not part of the queue. SCL unlock mutex. Finish gen mutex. So this just wants to process the whole queue, I think. While finished gen dot head cycle. What just happened? Finished gen dot tail. What is going on there? Finished gen dot head equals gen dot head plus 1 mod finished gen dot length. And then we have finished queue. Don't remember what it's called. Gen queue. So world x. Oops. H dot y, q h dot gc, called into that whatever it was called, put in cache, gen chunk, yeah, gen chunk, put chunk in cache. Okay. Handles that part of that step. So if I let each of them lock it themselves, then I would get a bunch of finer grained locking as each one has to grab the lock for the cache and puts it in itself, it would really just amount to doing this. But then the get has to, so it's probably fine. I don't know what the right way to do that is, but the get would have to take the lock if in the other side, so. The padding 64 thing is like sort of just, there's a certain amount when I do threaded programming of just putting stuff in without really understanding it properly. Just, you know, well, it can't hurt. So padding structures to avoid false sharing between things, probably not needed in a lot of the places that I'm going to do it, but I just do it out of paranoia. Save me the trouble of figuring it out. So, okay, so at this point, I've got them all there. So now I really need this code. So check if it's already in the cache. And if it is, copy it out. So we get chunk, get gen chunk cache. What was that called again? Get gen chunk cache for coord. For coord of, now I need the x coordinates, right? X plus j times chunk cache gen chunk size x, right? Is that what they're called? Yep, okay. Y plus k times gen chunk size y. Let's just go ahead and store these as coordinates, because we might need them multiple times. And then that's a gen chunk cache GCC equals that. All right. If GCC, and we copy it. And we copy it to rm cs k of j equals GCC arrow chunk. Else, if there's already a task for it, question mark, how do we know that? Else, create the task. So task t world x equals cx, t dot world y equals cy, t dot task type equals job, generate terrain, dot cs, not used by this task. Then add task. Okay, that's it for that part. I don't know if Sean McGrath is still in here, but he's not somebody who should need banning. I don't know why he started out with that expletive. Let's see. So already a task for it. Well, nobody. How do I know if there's a task for it? Like hash table? I guess I'll just make another big hash table, but it'll just be byte per thing, which is procgen in progress. Well, it's gotta store the coordinates still. Do I not have a structure like that already? No, I don't. Vec2i. So vec2i procgen in progress, and then we want this one to be much bigger. How big is that? Gen chunk 5. We want this one to be, let's say, in progress cache size. Make it be 128 by 128. How big would that be? I want something much bigger. So sure. So there just won't be any conflicts. Progress cache size in progress. Cache size. Void. Allow int is in progress. So I want to know if there is one for this. So we say, let's see, x equals standard frickin' code that we have everywhere. You see, like this is bad old code. Yeah, it's got this. Let me fix this while I'm here. This is a dumb bug that I had. These have to go slot x and y. And then these are supposed to check slot x, slot y. Or no, these change. It still checks the x as well. I was checking the wrong thing otherwise. Okay, so just means that assert was broken, but the code wasn't actually broken. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I wanted to cut and paste this code. Except let's get the gen code. This code. Oh, we take this code, and now instead of gen chunk cache x, we use in progress cache size. So if procgen in progress slot y slot x dot x equals x and dot y equals y, then it's in progress. All right, then void start procgen x and y. Does this. And different from the normal ones, we have to say can start procgen, because if somebody else is using that slot, then we can't do it. So let's go ahead and it's not a vec2i anymore, is it? Procgen status. start the proc-gen, and then we only start it if it's in use, and then we can end proc-gen. Okay. So this is how we'll know that some task has already been issued for this chunk. All right. False. I follow Panic on Twitter, so I probably would not ban you for linking to them. I'm not going to ban anyone for linking to things. I'm banning people who spam. And hopefully the mods will do the proper stuff now, and I won't be banning anyone as long as a mod app is. And I see that Cumberbatch is still here, so we're fine. What was I doing? I got it not to get distracted. Okay, right. So I made this whole little data structure so that I can check on the status of these things. So if is in progress of dxcy, it's already in progress, so do nothing. Else if not start proc-gen, can start proc-gen. Don't put not there. Can start proc-gen, then we start it. Otherwise, we fall through, we don't start it, and we can't do anything with that one. All right. Well, let's compile. NQ worldwide. Legal for struct. cs.chunk. Okay. It all compiles. I'm done. I don't think I'm done. I've forgotten to do here, other than the render queue initializing. I know that I have to do. Really have been it. All right, so maybe this is one of the problems with going bottom up. Oh, right, I haven't done this yet. One of the problems with going bottom up is you have no idea what you've done. All right, so here we have to get gen chunk again. We want to look at this code again. Generate chunk. Yeah, that's all you have to do, right? I remember talking about that. So is that really all I have to do here? In the worker thread? Generate chunk. t.worldx, t.worldy. Mesh chunk. See? No, that's not a mesh chunk. That's a gen chunk. And then we have to return that back in that thread. We made a new queue. Didn't create an add for it. Add gen, because it's called gen queue now. Chunk. That's what are the finished gen chunk. Finished gen chunk. That's just passive value. Who cares? Equal pending tasks.tail, then gen queue of finish gen.head equal You know, these should all be parenthesized. Probably help. All right. Add built mesh. Add gen. Finish gen chunk. GC. FGC dot worldx equals t dot worldx. FGC dot y equals t dot world y. FGC dot GC. Generate chunk. And then FGC add gen. FGC. Need to clear the task or anything? No, I don't. Get pending task. Did I implement get pending task? Not efficiently. Okay. So I need to, that needs to be at semaphore. And that semaphore will totally work. That can just be a count. STL sem pending task count. So then get pending task. Actually block now. So because I was just trying to figure out what this was. So STL sem wait. No, wait sem. No, I think it's sem wait. Sem wait. The reverse of new text comes last, but the sem comes first. So we sem wait on pending task count. Else assert 0. Oh, we still have to lock it though. Lock new text. Pending tasks. Oh, new text. Okay. I should have just undid. I don't know why we took that. 13K followers. And then we add a task. We can use STL. So there may be some smarter way to do this. I don't know. Trying to get it working. STL sem post pending task count. And we need to create pending task count. STL sem create. Maybe. Nope, not sem create. Create semaphore. Yep. Initial count of 0. Again. Rep val equals 0. False. Val equals true. Rep val. Add gen. So what do we do here if we fail? If we weren't able to add it, it was full. Then we need to free the gen check. Yep, okay. So we add built mesh out here. If add built mesh fails, then we need to free alt mesh dot vertex build buffer and free alt mesh dot face buffer. All right, there we go. So now we've got our worker threads and what they're doing, and we've got this manager thread maybe doing stuff. And we're knitting all our variables. That's the only semaphore we have, but we do have a mutex, the render trusted mesh mutex. It would be annoying if is there a mutex fail to out? We try to lock the mutex and it tells you. I only have that for semaphore. Of this. Yeah, wait timeout. Try lock mutex. Yeah, okay, so we can try lock the mutex, renderer, fail, grab it. And then it'll just be using the nested mesh. All right, and so then this needs to what do we do? Add built mesh. The add built mesh. Okay, so yeah, I think I just need to do the stuff on the rendering side and then the nightmare of debugging this whole mess. So let's write down what we need to do on the renderer side in another file. Let's do the renderer. I used to have this list somewhere. Here we go. Area over world run player, determine meshes are needed, build list of meshes priority order. Update requested list of those. Okay, and we still have to do reference count chunks. This is the whole thing for handling the fact that the chunks are stored in a cache, and then we copy them out into our own copy of them, and that copy of them, they can get removed from the cache, and currently that would cause them to be free. So we need them to stay alive when they've been copied out. This we've done. Okay, so start progress. I probably did not call it. I mean, so I wrote all that code, and did I call any of that code ever? Is in progress. And start procgen. Okay, yeah, and then the job, right, and the problem is this needs to move this all up. Here, this is where all the utilities are. Okay, so then the job, when it does it, needs to start procgen. But the problem is the can start procgen gets called down here. So we need to actually call it here. Procgen. And then we need to call end procgen when we pull it out of that table.